Welcome, everyone, to the Why and the Buy podcast. Today, we have Shannon Peng with us, and Shannon is going to talk to us about digital authenticity.
I really don't like walking in the room for anything less than great.
Shannon is one of my favorite people to be connected to online and to converse with online because it is nonstop Shannon all the time, every time. You're going to love this episode. I hope you love it half as much as we loved recording it. Hi, Christie.
Hi, Jeff.
We're recording now.
The many hours of conversation you and I have had, we've had probably half of them that haven't been recorded.
You know what we should do? We should start a podcast.
You think? Let's call it the Why and the Buy.
All right.
Hello, everyone. This is Christie Walters, and you're listening to the Why and the Buy podcast. And I am here with my partner, Jeff Bajorek. Hello, Jeff. How are you?
Hey, Christie. How the heck are you?
I'm doing well. Thank
Awesome.
you. I'm doing well. So we're recording on Valentine's Day. Believe it or not, we are such hard workers that we are out here even on Heart Day recording so that you guys can learn a little bit more about how to further your business, how to market your business effectively. So we have a very fun guest today. Jeff, you want to introduce Shannon to our listeners?
So when I think of Valentine's Day, I thought of Shannon Peng because Shannon is one of my new besties on social media. We met about a year ago, actually, on social media, on a kind of a version of a podcast, that old tired channel that we used to call Blab. And ever since then, there's just kind of been some multiple touch points. I'd see something and I'd comment on it, or I'd like it, or Shannon would so graciously find something that I wrote or put out there as share worthy. And she is as far as I'm concerned, she's my resident social media expert. She has told me, told us really, but all these new terms, what promancing is, and she's showing us new tools, how to take better selfies. And Shannon, I don't know how you do it. You're all over the place when it comes to social media. It's just so ingrained in who you are. And I think it's really, really valuable. And despite all the buzz around social media, I think it's still underutilized in some ways. So thank you for joining us today. Welcome. And I know our listeners are going to learn a lot from you today too.
Hey guys, thanks for having me so much. Wow, it's going to be hard to walk out of the conference room when I'm done.
We seek to make our guests feel welcome.
It is Valentine's Day.
It is Valentine's Day, and I'm excited that you all are my lunch dates because it's almost lunchtime here in California. And I am so excited to talk about the why and the buy around social and how to be social. And it seems that I'm all over the place. I'm also juggling a career, life, 3-year-old twin boys, right? Marriage, a minivan, beauty, and a fitness regimen too. But that all feeds into my content and my social stream, and even my combos with Jeff probably weekly.
Well, and that's an interesting point, and right to the point is, how do you manage to balance it? And I will tell you, one of the ways, or one of the reasons that I have actually kept social at arm's length is because I've been sucked into that vortex before, and then all of a sudden, 3 hours later, I've got nothing done. And hey, there's a lot going on here, because as many things as you have to juggle, a lot of the rest of us, maybe not as much, but have some other things to juggle too. I certainly don't have 2 hours to get sucked into cat memes and kid videos, right? They're cute. Great. I get it. I'm moving on. And I don't know. I mean, how do you manage to balance all that? And how do you integrate it so well with your personal life and into your business?
Well, a cat meme, if it makes sense and it's strategic, and it's part of my thread of who I am as Shannon, it would make sense, right? But if it doesn't make sense, then, we all get to, I guess this is the point. Time is our only luxury. So with social, with talking, to somebody in a meeting, so on and so forth, you as the driver of that have to really decide how you're going to utilize your time. So just because social seemingly is fun, right? There are strategic pieces of it. And I like a funny meme as much as the next gal, but ultimately that's not really my style of content, right? I am, I guess, cheeky as the British would say, in a lot of ways. And I post content around champagne because that's my nickname and that's my handle, on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat and so like, what is champagne, right? That's bubbly with brains. I am bubbly with brains. So that is something that I consciously drip out weekly, about the subject, but I'll say something impactful around it. Because ultimately, right, the world's not flat and our content shouldn't be flat. I am not flat as a person in talking to you guys, in prep to joining the podcast and just in offline conversations, right? You guys are not flat. So all these things that make you, right? Like Christie, you just said you used to live in the Bay Area. Like, what is that? What little nuance of that should I know, right? I grew up in gold country, 2 hours above San Fran, right? Placer County. Well, what is social like? It's like the modern day gold rush. So maybe that's something I can pull into my story, more or less, of how I see things, right? Because let's be honest, all that glitters is not gold. But even that statement, right, then visually, how do I kind of support that and put that into my stream? It's part of who I am. I'm a communicator. My mom said when I was like 8 years old, I'd write myself out of punishment. So I guess I'm just doing it professionally.
We're going to need an explanation on that one.
Yeah, go ahead. Continue, Ms. Peng.
Yeah, well, I will say my mom's really the best marketer I know. She's an artist by trade, but was brilliant with disciplining my sister and I because she would charge us money if we were bad. First, she would make us earn money cleaning and doing chores, which is genius. I will be doing this with my children. And then if we did anything out of the line, like interrupt a phone call, she'd charge us the money back.
Wow.
Right? So it was a real check and balance. It also taught, I can speak for myself, it taught us the value of a dollar. It also taught us a lot of how to negotiate because as women and as boss babes, as a future boss babe as a kid, right? Negotiation is not something that every little girl gets access to, or at least generationally. I don't think everyone else did. I know at like 10 years old, 11 years old, I was negotiating on Canal Street in New York City. It just was part of, I guess, instinct, but also because I've been negotiating with my parents over this, like earn money, take money away scenario. But if I got disciplined, I just literally write up why I shouldn't, like a rationale, much like I do here in my corporate life, right? Like, what is the creative rationale emotionally, physically? Why would you need this? Why does digital matter? Why should we be making this brilliant part of the day? I just do writing rationales of why I should get out of punishment. So true story.
Fascinating. I love that. So, one of the handles you have, Shannon, is a digital gladiator. And I love that one. But this has been a process for you, right? So you didn't just wake up one day and all of a sudden you had 1,000 Twitter followers or 1,000 followers on LinkedIn, or you've developed this over time. So talk to us a little bit about that journey for you.
Yeah, that's a good question. So actually, funny enough, if you had asked me this question 2 years ago, this time frame, I would have said, Christie and Jeff, I want to be private, right? I just had my kids. I had logged off of Facebook. I had LinkedIn because, like, before coming, into the corporation I work for currently, right, I had it, but I wasn't using it, right? It didn't make any sense to me. I felt like my life was meant to be private. And then one day the worlds collided, no joke, and I just realized I was a different person. Like, I had, different people, like my manager and some different colleagues saying, hey, you're so funny and I love your outlook. You should be writing stuff like #growing pangs. And, that's an 80s TV show reference, right? If a millennial is watching or listening. But like growing pangs and just talking about marrying into an Asian family and kind of my minivan adventures and raising twins. And then I got this note from somebody that I really admired in my younger years on LinkedIn, of all things. And they found me from across the pond, like in the UK, saying like, wow, you're right. Your bio is really great. I'm so happy that you're happy. It looks like you're killing it. And I'm thinking to myself, like, this person's like an entrepreneur and runs one of the biggest companies in this space. And I was like, that's weird. And then I saw the LinkedIn publishing button, right? And just decide. And then I engaged on something where I said, if you're not first, you're last on a statistic. And somebody socially baited me, right? that knew what they were doing. Obviously, they were socially listening to me, but I didn't know that, right? And they said Shannon Peng, and they called me out by name, which 2 years ago was an oddity. Never seen this, and said, Shannon Peng, you think that is 5% is that much of a difference? And I just was like, I just felt this fury inside of me bottle up. I mean, I'm pretty harmonious. I'm a Libra, so that's the balance trade and sign, right? The birth sign. But I bantered back. And then the next day I wrote my first post, which was called hashtag, of course, if you're not first, you're last, after Ricky Bobby. But the philosophy still stands true, because that is in the tech space, all these clients that I work with, I mean, that is what we're fighting against every single day from a digital noise space, and well, statistically speaking, only one of us can be first. We should all be giving it our all to go through that process. That's kind of how I got into it. I really didn't think I would like it. It's like when I first got Twitter, after I started writing, somebody wanted to publish my post. Jack Haselkowski said, hey, I want to, promote you on Twitter. What's your handle? And I thought, oh crap, I don't have a Twitter handle. So I literally just put, I kind of have like a social Cinderella story, right? So I put up a picture. It was a good picture. And I put my, at Champagne. And I thought, well, in the next hour, I'll probably have 1,000 Twitter followers, because I didn't know, right? I had bought into this fluff that all you needed was a picture. And if you were pretty, somehow somebody's going to follow you. Absolutely not the case. You have to walk your talk. You have to have authenticity to get a reaction and to get engagement, because that truly is the difference, is the actual engagement. So it's like, I had my handle, right? Jack ended up promoting me. And then another big influencer tweeted at me. It's like my first tweet, and it says this, right? I know this is abnormal, but because I'd done some light engagement on LinkedIn and I had a pulse and something there, I had another influencer tweet me this: hello, Shannon, welcome to the Twitters. Tell us about yourself. And I thought, what does he mean? What he meant is that 140 characters you get, right, where we put what we're doing or our focus, that we're a digital gladiator on there. I realize that's valuable real estate, and we should not take that for granted, right? Beautiful, not. Whether you have 30,000 followers, if you're not active on a daily basis and walking your talk and actually engaging on a one-on-one basis, it really is meaningless. Anyway, I said a lot, but I'm passionate about it. And
You clearly, and you said a couple of things there. You said active every day. You said actively engaging and responding. And you said because you had a pulse. Now, that is something that you and I have talked about a lot. There are a ton of bots on social media, because as soon as social media became this viable channel to reach people, that became a way to automate it. And some automation, I think, is probably necessary, because otherwise you would be on 24/7. And you know what? And when you think about traditional marketing and advertising, you produce a commercial, you pay to have it submitted, and then it runs when you tell it to run. So I can understand some automation to a point, but at what point is it just ingenuine?
Yeah, I think that's what we're beginning to realize right now. There's definitely something, I talk a lot about this in my corporate life, content ADD, and it's really true in my social and like my personal brand. I think the two are kind of integrated, but there's definitely content ADD going on. And that's a byproduct of everybody turning on their speeds and feeds, all these companies just having employee advocacy platforms, but no strategy or basis around what it is. People that hold influence just automating their speeds and feeds, meaning their LinkedIn, their Twitter, their Instagram. You can't really automate Snapchat, at least I don't know how you would, but I think the moment that you become predictable and robotic is the moment I tune out. For me, social has truly been revolutionary, and it's I'm going to be really generic here and cliche, but it's a game changer in my life. I feel that I am more authentic, and I am more the person I've always wanted to be, because it's forced me out of this. Like, I work in corporate America, I have to look like a robot zombie, because I absolutely am not. And I'm fortunate that I work for a leadership team and a corporation that has allowed me to really hone in on this and publish and talk about, all the intricacies and cool factors that are corporate America. But I'm definitely unique, and social for me is an outlet for that and a platform to talk about, the power of originality. Definitely not be like a social zombie, right? Because I don't know, Christie, Jeff, what do you think's happening? I mean, I kind of think it's a social zombie apocalypse upon us, where it's just all of a sudden these streams, it's like big data, hashtag, and it's like, cloud, a lot. And it's just like, I'm obviously on a lot of tech feeds, but it's just like it starts forcing it down the feeds and feeds, or with all these algorithm changes for advertisers, right? Like, I mean, I like to advertise just as much as the next. I like to sell it, but it needs to be strategic. It needs to make sense. But when Christie Walters, somebody that I'm going to for mindshare and leadership and sales advice, right? And just start just looking and feeling like everybody else, and you're predictable, you're just noise, right? And you just blend into the herd. Like Jeff mentioned, we met somewhere else. He just stood out. I never met. I mean, first of all, right, Jeff is unique in his own right, but he's just different, and he was disruptive. And so you stood out. And while it took a minute to talk offline, we engaged on a lot of each other's social content before we well knew each other, which built that trust, right? That, if we want to talk about social selling, right, that we sold each other before we ever engaged. Now, big ideas or strategies or brainstorms, we have enough trust built that we can run those things by each other. Are we selling millions of dollars of deals together at this time? No. Doesn't mean that we won't. Yeah, I mean, I think we could someday. It's just hard to know. Maybe after this podcast, we'll be doing, a Three's Company deal. That's a 70s throwback reference.
I love your 70s, 80s references.
Day.
These are great.
It's Valentine's Day, right?
That's right.
I'm a nerd. I'm practicing to go on Jeopardy.
So Shannon, tell me in your process, and Jeff and I have talked a lot about authenticity as it relates to digital media. Certainly in the coaching, speaking world, you see a ton of robotic messages out there, right? And so it becomes challenging to find that voice that is uniquely yours. But what would you say has been the biggest lesson learned in this journey for you?
Well, I mean, every day I'm learning. I mean, I know that sounds like the beauty contestant answer, but when you first, to actually be authentic in social or in corporate America, right?
Sure.
Or at the grocery store, right? Let's just the grocery store, or Target. You have to actually be in there, going through the aisles, knowing which aisle has what to be efficient and effective. And social is no different than that. So, like Snapchat. I didn't have Snapchat up until April of 2016. And I was going to an event, and I had a coworker who was pretty active on Snap for personal reasons. I said, hey, can you show me how to use this? Right? So my first Snap was about shrimp tacos. I mean, the subject matter, not mind-blowing. Right? So I'm like, I just didn't understand it. Why would anyone care about my shrimp tacos? Well, they don't, but they care about the thread and what, that ultimately like knits out to look like for me. Who is Shannon Peng from a daily basis? Snap has really forced me to be very authentic. So it's like pretty much every day, I'm a mom of twins and I work in corporate America. So, 5 a.m. I'm up, I'm at the gym. I'll snap about that. Some days it's a gym selfie. I love me some selfies, but other days it's just trying to get through and stay on that machine. I'm doing a lot of my social while I'm on the elliptical burning calories, and I'm talking about it, right? So while I might be doing a LinkedIn post, I might also be snapping about it. Just like you guys saw before we went on this, I was taking a picture. I was snapping it. And while I haven't put it up on my story, I'll put it on when we get off, because that's the thing that, first of all, it's special and it's unique to be on with you guys. But that's just a moment in my day. Like cooking is another big subject matter for me because I don't really cook. Right? I'm fantastic at to go, but it's interesting because I don't know, you guys probably see this with your network. There's certain things that people bite onto. For me, it's the champagne content, right? Bubbly with brains, deals and heels. right? Because I'm a salesperson. And first of all, selling like a girl most of my life, Christie, I don't know about yours, but had such a negative connotation to it. I just said, F it. I'm owning this. I'm good at this. I love this. I'm passionate. I'm also passionate about high heels. What am I doing when I, walk around the halls here, go into a client presentation? I mean, I'm doing the deals in heels. I'm just going to own that. That is authentic to me. But yeah, I think you just have to tell that story each moment of every day. It doesn't have to be every moment. As long as it's quality, that's what people are going to react to. I don't know. What kind of content do people bite on of yours?
Yeah. So, on the why and the buy, it's a little new yet to know exactly what the audience is going to focus on. And I think a lot of our listeners are people very similar to us, right? So they're in a sales career, they're starting a sales career, they're transitioning into a sales career, and they are looking for just nuggets of information, right? So we try to keep this fairly short, try to bring on people that we really respect and get a different perspective. And I think what I love about having you on, Shannon, is that I would suspect that a lot of our listeners fall into the 30 to 50 age range, right? And not all of them are on Snapchat, right? So I'm on Snapchat, but only with my grandson. So
right.
That's the extent of it, right? So, I think what's interesting to me is the bridge of the experience of those that are used to more traditional methods of communicating, and this concept of authenticity in a digital world, right? So, I think it's interesting to see that juxtaposition between the two. And I'm sure that you see that even in your corporate world, right? That there are those that are they're not quite sure what it is that you're doing at times. Right. And how do you handle that conversation? I'm sure it's like a fascinating one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so there's a few things, right? So the first is, I said it earlier, right? The world's not flat. Content shouldn't be flat. Our days, right? Digital gladiator, corporate gladiator, podcast gladiator, whatever it is we want to throw gladiator on, right? Because that's what we're doing. We're creating epic, not to be disingenuous, we are creating epic moments. Christie and Jeff are creating an epic moment around the why and the buy. Why do I care? Well, how do I not hook somebody in a generic manner, but how do I engage them and entangle them to the point that they have to say yes? Strategies and tips. It's like we can't get enough. I can't get enough from a sales perspective. From a beauty perspective. And I think there's a lot of kind of crossover between the reason why you're watching. Well, like for me, I love beauty, right? So it's like why I'd be watching an Instagram video or following somebody on Snapchat to figure out how they did their eyeshadow. It is the same when it comes to how do I, Shannon, as a mom of 3-year-old twins, walk into corporate America and here, 8+ hours every day, keep up on my social speeds and feeds? And I think the simple answer is you just start by doing. You just have to do it. Some days, like yesterday, I didn't send anything, right? A little bit on LinkedIn, and maybe some Twitter, but I didn't do any snaps. And what I realized is it's okay not to be the most popular. I'm not doing this for popularity. I'm doing this because I genuinely love it and I believe in it. And everything that I curate from a content perspective is organic. It's for me. Now, some would argue that that's horrible, right? But I just know that the reaction from people from kind of all over, right? Somebody just starting their career fresh out of college to somebody that's well established and running big, Fortune 50 or like huge corporations, their reaction to me, it's the same in the sense that they like my content because of its authenticity and it's genuine. I think that's really big.
The authenticity word continues to come up, and I think it comes up in very many ways. It's a very multidimensional word. We like authenticity because it feels like someone is speaking from the heart. Someone is, from that center of their gut. That's where that message is coming from, whether it is snapped or tweeted or faced or, whatever you want to call the next thing that comes out on the next channel, right? But authenticity also means not only that the message is genuine, but that you are being genuine to yourself as a human being, and not a robot, but as I think a lot of people feel, not only people new to sales feel like they have to be someone who they're not in order to be good at sales, but people feel like in order to get involved in social media, you have to be one of those social media types, right? And that's just not the case. You make an excellent point, Shannon. Be who you are. And you know what? Tell people about it. You might be surprised how many people respond very well to that. You might be surprised at who of those people or who are those people that are responding well to that. And it's not about having to be a certain kind of person at a certain time at a certain place. It's, hey, here's this cool tool. I'm going to have some fun with it. If you don't like it, I don't care. But I'm doing this for me. And that's what I think is really understated about the way you do it, is you clearly do it for you. You do it with a purpose, but ultimately it's a self-serving purpose every time. If you weren't getting something out of it personally, you wouldn't do it. But meanwhile, you also appreciate the value of extending yourself, putting yourself out there for other people who maybe you do business with, maybe you're just friends with, to find you and interact with you. And I think that is the point that many people miss. Everything became, just a few months ago, or maybe a year ago, how many tweets per day? How many LinkedIn messages per day? Where should I be on Facebook? Should I advertise? Should I not? All this, and what was your speed? What was your feed? What was your cadence? What was the magic formula? How many times do you see that on LinkedIn or Twitter? What's the magic formula for advertising my brand? There's no magic formula. Be yourself. Show up every day. How about that? That's the magic formula. And I think on a long enough timeline, it's not about accelerating. It's not about efficiency. It's about being real. Yeah. And Shannon nails that.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
So are there any rules of engagement, Shannon? So think about talking to someone who maybe is just getting started in their digital journey. So any tips or tools that you would suggest for people?
Yeah, I definitely think watching people, right, or watching brands is the step in the right direction. And just engaging, because the difference is engagement. So, a lot of us talk about it, but we're not actually about it. It's like me saying, well, I'm going to go throw the football into the hole. I mean, it doesn't make me sound authentic, right? Because that's not how you play football.
What game is that?
Exactly. But my case in point is that's how so many people talk about social, right? Yeah. It's like this clunky thing that doesn't fit in their life, and they're only going to think about it and talk about it during tea time. And it's like, well, when are you getting tea? It's like, oh, well, in between the minute of 2:59 and 3 p.m., it's like, okay, well, this isn't going to work, right? So just actually watching people, that's what I did with Snap, and watched different people that I just liked, right? I actually started watching Snapchat because of back in the day of Blab last year. I don't know what replaced it now. I think it's a Periscope now, but called Cloud Talk, right? And one of the guys on there, iSocial fans, whose tagline used to be talk fast, tweet faster, right? Here's a guy that came out of tech, ridiculously smart, now focused on talking about being yourself, and the world of social does still a ton of tech stuff, but has incorporated and really pulled in those cross congruencies. So it's relevant to me, but he just was talking about this experience, right? And I reacted to that far faster than some of the Gary Vee stuff. Cause I'd say Gary Vee not only is an investor in Snap, but he's also on Snap. So as soon as I heard Brian or iSocial fans say this, I just thought, you know what, I want to check this out. And it was just happened to align to an event that I was going to. So I started watching him, Gary Vee, some of the different makeup artists I love, the Skinny Girl Confidential, which is somebody that really does social very well. Just kind of watch her make a social stew. So when I was watching their streams, right, on Snap, well, how do they cross-pollinate over to Twitter and then Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, and each medium, right, has its own a certain je ne sais quoi and special like ingredient. And there's things that are very appropriate, say on my Instagram feed, that definitely don't fit. Like my fitness journey is a lot of what I talk about on my Instagram feed. And I honestly thought nobody would react to my fitness journey, but I have a whole, segment of influence of people that are professional bodybuilders and things. And then like say on LinkedIn, again, I didn't think anyone would want to know about what it's like to be juggling it all, right? But from that first post, if you're not first, you're last, it's just talked about how to be, a winner, right? And come out ahead. I realized I actually had to talk about myself, right? And it was Jack in one of our original conversations that just said, like, you have something with being a mom and having a minivan. You just have to figure out how you put that into your content. And honestly, it just took time and actually doing and watching, different people and how they talk about it, right? Some of them, right, some of these people that kind of made me fall extra in love with social still do this. Some of them just have become very robotic. But there's so many new people that have started to chime in that it's just fun to see somebody love it. Because that's how you create a sale, because you love it. Whatever you're selling, whether it's, I love makeup. I mentioned this, like this Doo-Wop lip venom, which I am a fan of because I just love the tingle and it tastes like cinnamon, but I actually advocate for it. I use it. Or if it's something that's clunky, right? But it makes my life better. And that's what you hear. So
I love it.
That's awesome. So you are expanding your social network professionally by talking about champagne, high heels, lip gloss, is it? Fitness, yep. Twins, yep. And minivans.
That's right. I should put that on my write-up.
You should.
I should. I don't have it. You know what? I have to, you're right. I have to walk my talk and update my LinkedIn. I should absolutely. I've never heard it phrased that way. Yeah.
Well, but
the fact that I really don't like walking in the room for anything less than great.
Right. Well, that's powerful right there. I mean, you got to think about it. What are you doing to contribute to that great? I can tell you that you contributed greatness to this podcast episode. Shannon, I'm so grateful for you coming on. Christie and I both really enjoyed having you here, and you've got so much to share. And the point can't be driven home hard enough. It's not who you have to be or what you have to do on social media. It's that you show up. And Be you, do you better than anybody else, and that is a lesson that I think we kind of arrived at just by kind of talking this out. But it's something that we've heard I don't know how many times, have we heard that, and it continues to ring true. So thank you again for coming on. The people out there, the listeners, can find you on Twitter, on LinkedIn, they can find you on Snapchat, they can find you on Instagram, they can find you on Instabook, on Snapface, on FaceChat, on everything else that Bill Belichick was talking about a couple of months ago, all the next social media streams that I know are just around the corner. You're a great follow on all of those networks.
We ask every guest that comes on the podcast one question, and you can take this in any direction you like, and that is, what is your why?
My why is that I don't like walking in a room or getting up out of bed for anything less than great. That is everything. And it's everything that fuels me in every aspect, in my social feeds, in my corporate, my corporate gladiator ways, my digital gladiator ways, and being a mom and being a wife and driving my minivan, which I'm kind of over, but greatness.
But it's so convenient.
I know. You know what? Honestly, I couldn't have had another car when my babies were little, right? Because by yourself with two little twins and getting a double stroller won't fit, a tandem stroller in particular when they're infants, won't fit in the back of most cars. So I know my struggle's super real. I'm rocking the Honda Odyssey, which is the most desirable of all the minivans. I have like 400 cup holders. I have a mini fridge, but I'm not satisfied. It's not great enough.
That's awesome. Well, Shannon, thank you. I'll reiterate what Jeff said. I really thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to talk with you today, and I look forward to connecting with you on all of the mediums. I will try out Snapchat.
Yeah.
My grandson will be super happy. My sister will be happy too. But yeah, so I definitely look forward to having some conversations with you on social media, and maybe even come back for a podcast here in a few months, and let's see how things have changed. And with that, we are out of time. So, Jeff, anything you want to add before we go?
I think that it's important to know why you're doing what you're doing, and I think it's important to know that you always have to be true to yourself and what you're doing. And I think that I have learned something from this podcast. I know that I'm going to approach social media in a different light, from a different angle, so to speak, and not worry so much about how I think I need to be, and just focus more on being.
Oh, and I love that.
That is
everything that has made our actual friendship, right? We started as social friends, right? Or social, we didn't know each other, right? But now we're social acquaintances. But everything that you just said, that is why I engage with you. But I engage with you privately to know that all these things make you great, right? You are juggling it all. We both are. We all three are. But it's just to what extent? Because I know people see me and think, wow, she's energetic. She doesn't look tired. She's up at 5. And she mustn't have children or drive a minivan. And I'm the antithesis. Be yourself.
We're up at 5 because we have children.
That's right, exactly.
That's the only time to get it done. So
for real.
Yeah, I just know that I've got a better understanding of my why, and I know that when you know your whys, your hows and your whats get a whole lot better. So thanks to everybody for being here. Thank you for joining us, and we will talk to you again next week. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Why and the Buy podcast. If you liked us, subscribe. We can be found on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, and really anywhere else you can get a podcast. And if you really liked us, then give us a 5-star review. We like those, and we like you too. Here at the Why and the Buy podcast, we've got our own house band. Christie and I think they're absolutely perfect for what we're trying to do with this podcast, and we hope you think so too. If you like them as much as we do, then you should check them out. They're called Haskins, and they're based in southeastern Michigan. You can find their music and more at haskinsmusic.com. Go check them out.